Hi guys, I am back today to do a stamping basics video. So if you guys follow me on Instagram, you'll know I was asking around for what kind of videos people would like because I want to do a series of different stamping videos, and I'm going to start with the very basics. So today I'm just going to talk about the basics of stamping. I get a lot of questions from people who are saying, oh, I've got this stamper or I've got this plate and it doesn't work for me. I'm new to stamping. What am I doing wrong? And one of the hardest things about learning stamping is that different things work for different people. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you the best tips and the best techniques that I have, and I'm going to make some recommendations based on not only what works best for me, but what I've seen kind of work well throughout the nail art community, and I'm going to give you alternates to try. So that's what we're going to do today. So I'm going to start out, of course, because one of the first things you need is stampers. So my current three favorite stampers in the world right now are, is this one, which is a sticky stamper XL. I use XL because I have larger nails. If you don't have larger nails, you can get away with a smaller stamper and you probably won't ever have to worry about that. This one in particular is from Messy Mansion. This has a kind of a matte finish barrel, which makes it a little less slippery if that matters to you. This you can buy almost anywhere. I mean, you can buy it on eBay, you can buy it a whole bunch of different places. And I have found the two of these together to be the most reliable stampers. When I'm trying other stampers, I'm using other stampers for some reason, and I can't get them to work with a particular plate, I pull one of these out and see if I can get it to work with this, because these are the ones that very rarely ever fail me. Okay, so this is the other one of my favorites, and this is my favorite clear stamper, and I'm not going to say much about this because I'm going to do a whole different video talking about clear stampers, because it's a whole different skill set and they are not easy to use. You shouldn't be starting out stamping with this. So if you bought some supplies to start out your stamping and you got a clear stamper, put it aside. You're going to bring it out at some point and you're going to love it, but that point is not right now, not when you're a beginner. So we will talk about that in a different video. Then the next thing you're going to need is a really good plate. So in my experience, Moyu London is one of the most reliable plate makers out there. I have literally never had a Moyu London plate not work with any stamper and any stamping polish that I had. There is just something about the quality of these plates. I don't know what they do. I don't know what sort of voodoo they've done over them. But whatever it is, it works, and I want to know the magic recipe because they are awesome. The other plates I'm going to recommend to you are Uber Chic Beauty plates. These are pretty darn reliable, and yeah, I know whenever I reach for an Uber Chic Beauty plate that it's going to work for me. Of course, there are tons and tons and tons of other plates out there, and you're probably going to want to use them at some point. You're not going to want to just stick to these makers. Unfortunately, when it comes to stamping plates, it has been my experience that you get what you pay for. There are a lot of other brands out there that are cheaper and that you can get, you can get plates that are this size for like $1.99, $2.99 some places. And I'm not saying that those are bad plates. Sometimes they're perfectly fine plates. But those brands, what I've found is it can be hit or miss. So I've gotten plates that work extremely well from them, and I've gotten plates that do not work so well from them. So I would say when you're beginning, invest a little bit of extra money, spend the money to get a really good plate that you love, play around with it, get that good stamper, get your good polish, and when you're feeling confident about your abilities, then you can start checking into those other plates. And then you're also going to feel good about, if you get a plate that doesn't work, knowing that it's the plate that doesn't work, and it's not you. It's not your technique. All right, of course, last thing we need is a stamping polish. So my favorite polishes that I've used, most reliable, that I love the most, Messy Mansion and Hit the Bottle are my two absolute favorites. These polishes they don't fail for me. I've never had any of the Hit the Bottles or the Messy Mansions fail for me. I've also heard that Mundo de Uñas is also very good. I have never used those myself, so I'm not going to recommend that personally. I'm just going to pass on that information. And another brand that I've just recently started trying out, but I've only tried out a couple of these, is Kaleidoscope. So far, I'm really, really loving this brand. So I say if you get, especially one of these two polishes, one of these two plates, one of these two stampers to start out your journey, you are going to be halfway there. Another question I get a lot is, should I prime my stampers? I have never ever had to prime a stamper of any sort, and I've tried pretty much all of them. especially you don't want to prime clear stampers. You don't want to prime kind of your sticky stampers. If you feel like priming other stampers, you know, and you feel like that works for you, great. But I've never had to. Putting them in dish soapy water and letting them air dry works beautifully for me and restores, you know, whatever stickiness if I need that. Also cleaning. I clean my stampers with just a little piece of tape, and I just kind of go like that. And most of the time I don't even have to push down. Most of the time you just kind of lay it on top and it's going to just do fine. I never put acetone on my stampers, especially when you get your stampers that are more like this and your clear stampers. And then the last piece of our puzzle is our scraper. There's a ton of different kinds of scrapers out there. Pretty much any, I mean, I've never really had a scraper that just flat out didn't work for me. I have to use different amounts of pressure, like when I'm working with different scrapers. So I would say that whatever scraper comes with the stamper that you get, you're going to be fine. You're just going to need to do a little bit of trial and error, which frankly is sort of what you have to do with everything when it comes to stamping. Let's talk a little bit about technique. So I think as a beginner, like a lot of times in my videos, you'll see me just kind of cover the image halfway and then scrape and pull the polish over. I think as a beginner, I want to try to help you cut out any variables at all that are going to make you not succeed or interfere with your ability to succeed. So I would say cover the whole thing with polish and then use a medium scrape at first. And I'm going to show you this, don't worry, but first I just want to talk you through it. So you don't want to scrape so hard that there's like almost no polish left, and you don't want to scrape so light that you can't see the image. You kind of want an in-between. And you may have to play around with that the first few times that you're doing it. And you know, the first time you try, you may not remove enough. And the next time you try, you may remove too much. But as you kind of practice it a few times, you'll get it. Okay. Next, you're going to pick up your image. Now, some people roll, and some people go straight up and down. And whether you do one or the other depends on a couple of things. It depends on your type of stamper. Some stampers work better with rolling. Some work better with up and down. It also depends on your personal preference, what works for you, and the kind of pressure you personally put. For me, I've always liked rolling. I always prefer that, and I always get the best results with that. When I go kind of up and down, I get patchy images, unless I have a stamper that for whatever reason only wants to do it that way. So my personal suggestion, if I were tutoring you one-on-one, is I would say start with the rolling, and if that doesn't work, then try the up and down. And it may just be that, you know, everybody's hands are different, everybody's wrists are different, and what works for you might not be what works for me. So with some stampers, you can roll, you know, pretty leisurely with your pressure. Some stampers, you're going to have to go really quickly. Especially the clear stampers, which we're not talking about today, you need to kind of almost flick your wrist. So if you're starting it, if you're going like this and you're taking your time and you're not getting the image you want, try going a little faster. Try putting a little less pressure. If that doesn't work, try putting more pressure. And I know it basically sounds like I'm telling you, try everything. Well, you know, that's what you kind of have to do when you're first learning to stamp, and if you get a new tool. Every time I get a new stamper, I kind of have to adjust a little bit to figure out how to use it. All right, so then, of course, the next thing you're going to do is you're going to pick the image up and you're going to put it on your nail. And then we have the same kind of issue there. Some people roll onto your nail. Some people put straight up and down onto the nail. When it comes to this kind of a stamper, I generally roll. Once again, it just has always worked for me. When it comes to some other kinds of stampers, I will go straight up and down, usually with a clear stamper. That's what I'm doing because I'm trying to place my image very precisely when I'm using a clear stamper. So again, just kind of see what works for you. And if the rolling doesn't work, try the straight up and down and you'll be good to go. So those are the stamping basics. The amount of pressure that you're putting when you scrape, the amount of pressure that you're putting when you roll, the amount of pressure that you're putting when you put this onto your nail. So in terms of speed, working faster is always better because that way your polish doesn't dry out, but that's one of the reasons why I love the polishes that I do, is because these give you a fair amount of time to work. So, you know, if you put your stuff on, you scrape it off, and then you can't find your stamper for a minute because your workspace is cluttered like mine always is, you're going to have a few extra seconds with a good quality polish that will allow you to work in with that. Alright, so now that we've kind of talked this through, let me go ahead and do a sample here for you. So I'm going to use Messy Mansion chalk, and I am going to cover my entire image here. So I'm going to make sure that I get pretty good coverage. All right. Then with medium scrape here, and see, it looks like there's a little film over it. There's my image, and you can see I didn't get it perfect because I didn't cover it as good as I should have. And then to roll it on, I'm going to just roll it on. And there is my transfer. So you want your image to look like, you want to be able to see the image through the polish and scrape off enough so that you can see it, but it might look like there's kind of a little bit of a film over it, but that's fine. Roll over the way I did, roll it on, and notice how even though I didn't quite get the edge on my scrape, so my image was missing a little bit, I went ahead, I still had enough to use my, to cover my nail, so I went ahead and still use it anyway, and that's fine. And it looks great. Now, one of the tricks that I use for cleaning up, you can use Mani Defender, a liquid latex barrier on your cuticles. I do that sometimes depending. If it's going to be a quick little thing, I will go ahead and just use tape. So then the last thing that you need to think about is top coating. For me, I can pretty much top coat within like a minute of stamping, sometimes even less, and I'm not going to smear it as long as I don't go over the same spot twice with my top coat. I think there are other parts, other climates where polish may not dry as quickly, and so in that case you may have to wait a little bit longer. So this again is going to be trial and error for you. Also, the kind of top coat that works with your personal chemistry and works in your climate may work for you. So Sèche Vite is something that I love, but for other people it doesn't work out too well. I would say that no matter what kind of top coat that you use, especially if it is a quick dry top coat, you want to, of course, always find something that works as best as possible with stamping, but then I always go 1, 2, 3, and I make sure that I don't go over the same spot twice. Now, if I have a gap, like I have a gap right there, I don't know if you can see, what I will do is I will wait until this dries, and then I will go over it again instead of going over it and risking smudging it again. Alright, so those are my basic tips for stamping. So if your first try you feel like it's not going well, don't get frustrated. Just understand that all of us that do this and make it look, you know, relatively easy, we've been doing it for a long time. So just try it out, have a little patience with yourself, play around with it, have fun. Start off with top quality items. I think that is the most important thing. Get rid of that variable out of your equation, and then you can just focus on figuring out if, you know, you're a roller or a stamp up and downer, figuring out how much pressure to use when you scrape, and you can enjoy that process a lot more than if you're already struggling with equipment and plates that maybe are not top-notch quality when you start out with. Alright, if you have any questions at all, please let me know down below. And if you have any suggestions for other videos that you would like to see, please let me know down below in the comments. I will link everything I've used here in the description box, and thank you so much for watching.